Dear friends, did you know that golf is one of the first sports played in space? Who would have thought that the game invented by Scottish shepherds in the 15th century would reach this level? And we, in turn, still cannot develop Qazaq traditional game of Kokpar in the cities, which the Turks played back in the 9th century. As legend has it, shepherds played the game and knocked stones into rabbit holes with sticks. Wood, iron, wedge, putter are the most popular golf club names, which have different characteristics and are constantly being modernized. The golf ball has evolved over time from an ordinary stone into a round ball made of rubber, while it does not change direction during flight. Why we cited golf as an example? Because today we'll talk about the evolution of Taikazanda and goat carcass in Kokpar. Hello to everyone, dear friends, who always welcome guests warmly in their houses and keep livestock in the pastures. Let's begin. In 1313, King Edward II of England banned the game of football within the city. In 1314, by a special edict, he once again forbade the ball to be chased on the territory of London. In 1389, King Richard II issued a decree to execute those who played football at the royal palace. But even with such strict rules, people continued to play football. In the end, what level has football reached today? Most likely both kings, having learned about this, would have regretted their decrees. We seem to have wandered off the point a bit. Let's take a look at the history of equipment related to traditional Kokpar. We all know that Kokpar was originally a step game. This was the rule of the game. This trend continued until the middle of the 20th century. In 1949, new rules for Kokpar were approved in Kazakhstan. According to these rules, the participants of the game were divided into two teams, and there were two Taikazands on the field. The average weight of a goat carcass that had to be thrown into the Taikazand was 30 to 40 kilograms. During the years of independence, the rules haven't been changed significantly. After the formation of the National Sports Federation, the Taikazanda and the goat carcass cerque changed slightly. The goat carcass was replaced with a stuffed goat, and since it was made from awkward materials, the players often criticized it. Taikazanda was completely removed. Instead of it, a circle on the ground was drawn to throw the cerque into it. On my own experience, I tested several models of a stuffed goat. Recently, we have been playing with the one developed by the JKL. It is very comfortable. It does not slip off hands. In addition, this model has different weights, so athletes can safely pick it up. They can easily grab it and press it against the horse's rump. The model is soft, elastic, almost completely resembles a goat carcass. We played a lot of times with this dummy and were satisfied with its quality. A real man never backs down, even when he is on the edge of the abyss. Qazaq folk wisdom. Now, I would like to talk about the world's most popular sports. You may even be engaged in one of them. Basketball is one of the most popular and spectacular sports. It was originally invented by U.S. physical education instructor James Naismith in order to entertain his students, develop their passion for sports and physical activity. He attached two fruit baskets to the balcony railing and suggested throwing soccer balls into them. The team that scored the most goals won. A year later, Naismith settled on 13 rules for his sport, which he named basketball. Basketball gained popularity. Based on this experience, JKL made some changes to the rules of the game of Kokpar. Let's consider them. The creation of the Youth Kokpar League in 2017 became one of the main events in the history of this Turkic game. The reason is that the JKL format is very different from the traditional Kokpar format. The field is much smaller and the athletes compete 3-on-3. For the safety of the athletes, the Taikazanda was modified and transformed and the goat carcass was replaced with a dummy. Thus, keeping the very idea of the traditional Kokpar, the new JKL format was invented.
Өзім спорт қолдап жүрген адаммын. Қазір міне өзіме жаңа спорт ашып Kokpar деген осы спортты қолдап келатырмын. Сөйрені әр қазақтың қанында бар дейді ғой, осы дәстүрлі ойындар. Бірі осы ойнағалы бері.
I used to go in for sports and found my calling in Kokpar. It is in the blood of every Kazakh man. We play at least once a week and Kokpar requires more physical activity than other sports. The game is similar to the workout at the gym. You get very tired. Kokpar cannot be compared to any other type of competition. This is a real men's game.
Дем аламайға демімізді алып, кәдімгідей бит. Қолдарымыз бітеліп, аяқтарымыз бітеліп, кішкене солай болып қалады. Енді Kokpar'ды мен басқа спортпен салыстырамаймын. Бұл жақта негізі нағыз ер жігіттің ойнайтын ойын ғой бұл деген.
Додаға келетін болған кезде бұл жердің
If Kokpar is played with the Taikazanda, then athletes need to make efforts to throw the goat carcass into it. And this is what makes the game itself interesting for both participants and spectators. But while playing, sometimes you get such an excitement that you don't care whether it's the Taikazanda or just a circle on the ground. The main thing is to achieve the set goal, pick up the cerque and throw it into the circle. Kokpar is the sport that was bequeathed to us by our ancestors. By the standards of Kazakhstan, Kokpar is held according to the following rules. There is a field 200 meters long, 80 meters wide. The distance between the Taikazands is 120 meters, 60 meters from the center of the field to each Taikazand. As for the rules of the game, there are only 2 rounds, 20 minutes each. Each team consists of 12 athletes. Kokpar in the JKL is played according to a simplified scheme. There is a compact field and the number of athletes is 3 times less. Each half lasts 5 minutes.
Серкеге келетін болсақ, негізі менің өз басым ең бірінші муляж серкемен ойнайды дегенді естіген кезде негізі мен өзім оны қабылдағанмын.
When I first heard that the real goat carcass was replaced with a stuffed goat, I opposed to it. I have always associated Kokpar with a holiday. I remember when I was a child, my grandfather arranged a sundet toy. He organized a real Kokpar. I remember looking out the window and seeing this crowd of riders on horseback. There was noise and fuss. I even thought that these people were fighting. And then I looked at my grandparents and saw them smiling. They were excited to watch the game. Then I felt like a special person because my grandfather arranged Kokpar in my honor. It was then that I realized that Kokpar is a real holiday. I remember how after Kokpar they brought the goat carcass, all the elders gathered at the table, made koradag, played the dombura, told some stories. I associated this moment with the holiday. When the goat carcass was replaced with a dummy, I opposed to it. I didn't understand the reason. Then Daniardo K founded the Youth Kokpar League. In 2019, the French representatives offered us to visit their country and show Kokpar. We gathered a large team of athletes, took all the equipment, saddles, dummies, and set off. Daniardo K and Nurbol Boribak did a great job. We came to France and performed with great success. There were spectators from Germany, England, and Spain. Everyone liked not only our horsemen, but their manner of riding horses as well. Foreigners liked Qazaq Kokpar, which represents the spirit of extreme. and which were able to transform to the current realities of life, leaving the very basis of nomad competitions. Foreigners also liked our model of the goat carcass. They came up and asked about the dummy, touched it, and even took pictures of it. After that, we felt like we could promote Qazaq Kokpar all over the world. A good stallion can be distinguished in the herd and a young man in Kokpar, Qazaq folk wisdom. In any sport, first of all, it is necessary to maintain good health condition. For instance, boxing has the history of over 3,000 years. At the very beginning, it was the game for the elite. First fights were held in palaces, but soon boxing, as they say, went to the masses. We know such great boxers as Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, and Gennady Golovkin. But we also know how many athletes were seriously injured during fights, simply because they had absolutely no shield of protection against blows. Amateur boxers fought on the ring wearing headgear, but since 2013, a rule was introduced that required boxers to remove headgear during fights. In turn, in the JKL, on the contrary, the Taikazanda had been replaced with a safe one in order to completely protect both the rider and the horse. The Youth Kokpar League, as the majority of sports, features professional players and amateur ones. Competitions among students are held at the amateur level. After participating in a special competition, young athletes move to a professional level. In the same mass Kokpar, we can often see both horses and riders getting injured. There were cases when horses broke their legs and athletes remained disabled. In turn, the JKL strives to ensure that amateur Kokpar players are not injured. Therefore, the Youth League made a safe Taikazanda, keeping its traditional shape. Inside, it is stuffed with straw so that riders and horses don't get hurt.
Негізі кез келген шабандозбен мысалы команда үшін өте маңызды деп ойлаймын. Бұл қазандық деген нәрсе. Мысалы баяғыда бізде осы федерация болсын, басқа болсын, Қырғыз мемлекетінде болсын.
Before, during the competition, Taikazands were very traumatic. This also applies to our competitions and the competitions that took place in Kyrgyzstan. Many riders were injured, but in the Youth Kokpar League, the Taikazanda is completely safe. Even if an athlete falls, he is guaranteed to have no injury. We have repeatedly seen how playing with a former type of the Taikazanda, many people became disabled. It would be perfect if the new Taikazanda is used in all competitions.
Оны өзімізде көріп өстік қой, майып болған адамдарды да көрдік. Осындай қауіпсіз қазандықта қолдаса екен деймін өзім.
The Taikazanda is the main part of Kokpar. Let's review the Taikazanda of the Youth Kokpar League. The height of the Taikazanda is 1.2 meters, the width is 2.5 meters. The boiler is completely made of compressed hay. At the same time, the hay is packed firmly and the top is covered with a tarp.
Негізі қазандықтың болғаны жақсы. Ал JKL-дің жаңағы ойлап тапқан жұмсақ қазандығы, мобилді қазандығы ол тіптен жақсы. Неге қазандықтың?
Personally, I believe that the new model of the Taikazanda will promote to further development of the game. I mean the design of the Taikazanda which was developed in the Youth Kokpar League. It's good. After all, it is thanks to the Taikazanda the sports component of the game is represented in Kokpar. Athletes have many of their own methods for throwing the goat carcass into the cauldron. It looks very nice. There are even some acrobatic elements. An athlete can simply throw the goat carcass, you can throw it over yourself or throw it directly into the Taikazanda. If the carcass is too heavy, two people can throw it into the cauldron. All this requires great dexterity and good physical training. The Taikazanda, which was developed in the JKL, is patented. This is just a real discovery. Outside it is completely covered with tarpaulin. Inside there is hay. It is absolutely safe. Riders now can feel safe in Kokpar. It took a lot of art and a lot of human labor to build such Taikazanda.
Келіп қағады, ешқандай травма жоқ. Палуанның ішіне секіріп келіп түсіп жатады, ешқандай травма жоқ. Бірақ сол қазандыққа серкені алып келіп салу үлкен өнерді, физикалық дайындықты, шеберлікті, сосын еңбекқорлықты талап етеді.
The small number of players on the field in the modern version of Kokpar also contributes to the safety of the athletes, because every injury got during the game affects the player's health. Hockey has unique injury potential and players receive a lot of injuries during matches. To hit a hockey puck hard, the player must reach the speed of up to 160 kilometers per hour. According to statistics, 80% of hockey players receive serious injuries during their careers. This means that 9 out of 10 professional players experience serious health problems in their careers. For example, in 1958, Bill Masterson, a 29-year-old NHL player from the Minnesota North Stars, died 30 hours after his injury. Another example is that hockey players often beat off the puck with their bodies, which can reach the speed of 200 kilometers per hour. It is not uncommon for a flying puck to hit not only the teeth but also a player's head. According to statistics, the vast majority of hockey players become disabled as a result of all injuries shortly after the end of their careers. Fortunately, there were no such incidents in the Youth Kokpar League. In the JKL, it is forbidden to ram a player at a high speed as it is very dangerous. At the same time, according to the coaches, a skilled rider who has mastered all the nuances of the game can easily avoid injury in major competitions. In the JKL, the safety of the players is of great importance. The wolf will catch a weak fellow, but it will not dare to attack the brave one. Qazaq folk wisdom. Now let's talk about the goat carcass, the cerque. And the first question is, why was it necessary to replace the carcass of a real goat with a dummy? Probably someone was afraid that the number of goats on the Qazaq land would quickly decrease. In 1971, the Greenpeace movement was created in Canada. Its goal was to prevent and eradicate environmental problems as well as to protect animals. That is why they came to the conclusion to replace the cerque with a stuffed goat. One more reason was the fact that with a stuffed goat, the game of Kokpar can be broadcast on world TV channels without any problems. Our country worked hard to include Kokpar in the program of the Olympic Games. However, the biggest obstacle was the carcass of a real goat. Fans of the game developed several versions of the dummies, but they all did not fit. It seems that the Youth Kokpar League has put an end to this problem. The dummy was created that looked as close as possible to a real goat carcass.
Где-то в 2014 году ко мне приехал Данияр Даукей и привез тушу козла и задал такой вопрос: можете ли...
In 2014, Daniyar Daukei came to me and brought the goat carcass. He asked me if I could make a dummy for Kokpar. It completely imitated the carcass of the goat, and it was completely made from an animal skin and other related materials. We were of course interested in this proposal. We took all the measurements and started creating this dummy. But at the same point, we face difficulties since in Kokpar, this sports tool must withstand very strong physical exertion. It can be pulled by the leg, it can be torn. Therefore, for 2 years we were engaged in development, and Daniardo K was engaged in approbation at his base.
Так как за лапы тянут, рвут его, поэтому на протяжении 1,5-2 лет мы занимались разработкой, апробировал уже Daniardo K на своей базе.
Сол бірінші түрі серкеден жасадық. Сол семейде сол кезде мал.
The idea came to make a stuffed goat. We started working on this model. In Semey, we found a man who works as a tanner. His name is Maxime. We explained to him what this stuffed goat should look like. Then we brought him a real goat. We stabbed it. The first dummy was made like a scarecrow. It was immediately clear that we did not understand each other. I had to show Maxime the very game of Kokpar so that he would understand what we wanted. The second model was also made of goat skin and looked more like some kind of stone statue. It was also unsuitable for the game, but we have already moved a little forward. I again talked to Maxime, and after a while, he made 2 models at once with 2 different methods of weaving the legs. One model was torn immediately, but the second model turned out to be much stronger. But these models looked like a real goat.
Жаңағы тартысты шыдайды. Сөйтіп, бірақ ол тірі серкеден жасалған.
At the moment, a lot of dummies of goat carcasses have been created for playing Kokpar. Of course, the main task for the developers was to keep the shape of this arcade. Many efforts are put into this in every Kokpar championship. However, if we focus on the opinion of the players, the dummy proposed by the Youth Kokpar League surpasses other models in all respects. As for the design of this dummy, on the outside it is covered with leather and inside it is filled with rubber filler. Therefore, it is very easy for the athlete to press such a dummy against the rump of a horse. And the goat's legs are made of knots of thick rope.
В процессе разработок этого изделия мы дошли до того, что...
In the process of developing this product, we got to the point that the dummy with natural goat skin could not withstand the load during the game. And we made a decision to make the model from thicker and stronger leather. This is the hide of cattle. In particular, bovine hide, because it met the requirements and other physical and mechanical properties.
Сөйтіп мен айттым, енді бізге басқаша жасау керек. Енді тірі серкеде қысамау керек.
Then I said that the stuffed goat should be more like a soccer ball in order to correspond to the sports format, and as a result, we have such a dummy.
Не болу керек, ұқсастық болу керек. Сол спорт форматқа сай болу үшін.
Now it is not just a stuffed goat, but a full-fledged sports equipment that meets all the parameters, both physically and visually.
Солар бәрі шауып көрді, тартып көрді. Солар бәрі өзін бағаны берді, өзін ұсыныстар айтып, сөйтіп реттегенбіз ары қарай.
We said earlier that the goat carcass was chosen for the game of Kokpar. The goat skin is very strong. These were the main parameters while creating an appropriate dummy. In this regard, the dummy of the JKL is very convenient. It is non-slip and soft to the touch. After all, if the model is too rigid, there is a possibility of injuring the athlete's leg. In addition, the dummy of the JKL does not tear like a real goat carcass.
Именно делали акцент на то, чтобы ноги козла выдерживали соответственные нагрузки.
We laid emphasis on the goat's legs so that they withstand the corresponding loads. Our company has developed a special knot knitting for pulling out these loads during the game. Of course, we are satisfied with the production of the Cirque model. because we have been constantly improving it. We have already reached, how to say, the sample that is comfortable to play for athletes as well as train with this product. We produce different weights for training.
Чтобы они могли тренироваться этим изделием, мы выпускаем разные веса для тренировок.
The stuffed goat, developed by JKL, was patented in 2015 in accordance with the paragraph 15 of the Article 11 of the Republic of Kazakhstan under the number 1655. For example, in football there are different types of balls depending on the age of the players. Likewise, in the youth Kokpar League, there are different types of the cerke by weight. Who is meant to be a worthy man, he will be. If a horse is destined to become a fast horse, it will become one. Kazakh folk wisdom. Tennis, which appeared in the 13th, 14th centuries, was first played by the residents of France, Italy, and England. Now imagine a person who is running after the ball and is hitting the ball with a bare hand. It was not until the 16th century that rackets came into use. I hope you get my point. It requires time for a successful model to be created. Everyone knows that in Spain there is a traditional game of bullfighting where a man and a bull are fighting on the field. This type of competition has been played for several thousand years. Spanish bullfighting is a continuation of ancient traditions and a true manifestation of the Spanish spirit. However, in recent years, a large number of opponents of this game have appeared, although no one disputes the importance of bullfighting in the national culture of Spanish people. Initially, there were restrictions on the safety of matadors, but later they were challenged by animal rights organizations. It should be noted that the bulls participating in the game are bred on special farms where they are given complete freedom and excellent conditions are created for them, because they should be like those wild bulls that once inhabited the medieval Europe. Despite this, a large number of animal defenders oppose bullfighting. In recent years, the bullfight has been banned from screening on TV. If this continues, the Spanish people will one day give up this game. But it is very important for the Spanish economy because a huge number of tourists from all over the world come to enjoy the competition. In order to avoid a similar situation with Kokpar, it was decided to replace the real goat carcass with a dummy. After that, you can safely demonstrate this game to the whole world. Kokpar is our national game, so the main goal of its fans is to develop, preserve, and promote it. So we come to the end of today's episode. What have we told about? We told about the reason of replacing the goat carcass with a dummy. By the way, in the previous episodes we said that after the competition, core duck dish is traditionally made from goat carcass. This represents traditional spirit of Kokpar. And the stuffed goat gives Kokpar the spirit of a sports game. That is, the competitions are held according to the sports standards. One more point is worth paying attention to, but it is upsetting. Different stuffed goats are used at different Kokpar competitions. It reminds me of the words of our ancestors. Without unity, there is no life. We showed you different models of the dummies, expressed our opinion, and it is up to you, dear viewers, to choose which of these dummies are the best. I am Akjol Taukan. Watch us on the Qazaq TV's YouTube channel. Leave your comments. Goodbye, and see you soon.